Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, I'm really enjoying this. I really am enjoying this. And there's a lot of really tough questions. I mean, let's say you're a billionaire. For whatever reason, these rich guys are into rockets. I honestly don't know why. Without exaggeration, when I was in the 6th grade, Dick and Susan Smith, very good friends of my family, they didn't have any kids. And they were close with our family, my sister, myself. And so they would always get us the best Christmas presents. I mean, and it wasn't even close. Dick and Susan would come and we got a gift, but it would be the most beautifully wrapped. It would be the largest box. When you open it up, it would be the most expensive. I got a train set from them one time. I mean, it was really remarkable. And they got me a rocket, 6th grade. Spent all day setting up. It was the hardest to assemble gift I've ever had. That's one of the reasons I remember it so close. I was in the 6th grade, and it worked. When it finally went up, boy, this thing went high, and then it came back down. It really did work. I bring that to you because these rich guys and rockets, it's a really strange thing. It's a very strange phenomenon. I mean, it's a device that goes up. It goes, and it's not like there's a Nordstrom's up there they're trying to get to. Or there's not like there's a McDonald's with a special deal that they don't have down. Like there isn't something you're going to up there. They want to go up. Okay. I don't know. There's something to the mentality. I don't know. It's just an observation that I make with these really rich guys. And it's also something that you could only do if you were really rich. So there's also there's this showmanship involved for sure. Right? It's very different if you're trying to go to space to inhabit another planet because you feel this planet may implode, may be gone. That's very different than just being a guy that just wants to go to space and come down and say, I did it, I paid for it, I figured it out, and none of you have gone. Or you could even have the guy who gets the wife who marries in, and now all of a sudden she gets to be rich and she gets to go tell social media that she's going to take somebody with her. But there's going to be a test. You must turn in your application right. You must be worthy. You must compete with other people that aren't my actual inner circle friends or family. It's going to be a complete stranger, but you must be worthy. If I find out that you so much is littered, I'm not going to take you to space with me. You start to get to this really weird thing. And as weird as this might be, what else are you going to do? It's a really tough question. What are you going to do? What are you going to do with your time? And who would choose a poor man's sport? Wrestling is a very low sport. It's very low on the totem pole. You don't need, like, you guys have all been to high school. Your volleyball teams and your basketball teams and your baseball teams, they would have what's called tryouts. And people would be cut. And I couldn't even imagine this. I didn't play any of those sports, but I mean, I couldn't even imagine it. Like when my classmates would be talking about it, I didn't fully understand what they meant because I came from wrestling. Nobody gets cut. There's no such thing. If you are willing to put your wrestling shoes on and walk into the room every day at 3 o'clock, you are now a wrestler on the team. And that will never go away. At any school in all of the lands, if you are willing to put on your correct shoes and step onto the mat. Now, if you don't have shoes, the coach will supply one for you. He will have what's called a lost and found. And over the years, they'll get you shoes. If you show up to a tournament and you don't have the money to enter the tournament, somebody there will see this, observe this, reach in their wallet and put you in a tournament. There will never be a day that you go to a wrestling tournament and you see a young man that isn't able to compete because he didn't have the money. It's a weird claim by me, right? I'm telling you, that will never happen. That will never happen. That never has happened. There has never been a person turned away from a wrestling mat because they didn't have the appropriate gear. which is required. A very specific singlet is required. And you will hear this and you will hear of these threats, but you will never find a time through history where somebody was not supplied or an exemption was given so they could go out there in their damn blue jeans if they needed to. I just share with you any sport that is so inclusive that everybody is welcome, right? It's what all sports argue that they do. All sports try to come and argue for you inclusiveness, but there's only one sport that truly does include everybody. There's only one, and it's wrestling. It's the only sport where you will never be questioned on anything, from religion to sexuality to socioeconomic class. There is nothing that will preclude you from being able to participate. It is the most inclusive sport ever created. It is also one of the worst funded. It is also one of the worst viewed. It is also one of the least respected. Why? Because it's so inclusive. That's why. Not just because it's hard and it's difficult to do. It is so inclusive and there are so few barriers to entry, people will look down their nose and say, well, there must not be anything special about it. It would be the exact opposite as going to space, by example. Going to space, getting the permits, getting the clearance, having the funding, building the rocket, getting an astronaut that believes it. I mean, you've got so many things that are just going to limit the 6 billion people on Earth. You're going to limit all 6 billion with 4 exceptions. I mean, I'm just sharing for you. So now that's looked at different. Now that's looked at coveted. Now your snooty married into wife who's never actually achieved anything can go to social media and let you know that she's going to take somebody with her. But that person must qualify, right? You can do these weird things. Wrestling just wouldn't. They just want to do it. They'll let everybody in. So when you have a guy like Mark Zuckerberg who decides he's going to go into that, it is very interesting. Mark Kerr, the smashing machine, most dangerous man on the planet at a specific time, said that he had kids. He said, I fight so that they don't have to. And it's a very interesting concept. I was never in that spot. I wanted to. I wanted to go out and compete. I didn't quite understand it, but I do remember when Mark said it. And I do know that he meant it. He knew this was brutal. He knew this was gruesome. Right? He's fighting at a time when there isn't gloves, headbutts are legal, kick a guy when he's down is a really rough and tumble thing. No commissions, but it was a way to earn something for his family financially. So he could set some aside and have a nest egg someday and the 401ks and all the stuff that you guys hear about. That he could then give to his children so that when the day comes, when they needed a roof over their head or they needed something to put in their bellies, they didn't have to go fight. He fought so they didn't have to. And I just share that because that is a much more common mindset than Zuckerberg, who can do anything he chooses with his time, and he's choosing to do one of the hardest things you can do. And I realize I keep saying the word wrestling, and I realize that Zuckerberg is doing grappling, but I am a wrestler who under Fabiano Scherner has a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so I am combining the two. I understand that. I understand where those worlds are going to bicker that out, but you'll also understand for me, it's going to happen on Resilite, it's going to happen in closed doors. You might have a window in the room, you probably won't have so much as a water fountain. You can't enter the mat or leave the mat without certain things being done. Doesn't matter if it's you and one other guy in the room. There is still custom and traditions that are going to be held up. It's a really hard thing to do. And then what do you get when you're done? You're going to become more dangerous. You're going to have more confidence. You have a better chance of protecting yourself. But Mark Zuckerberg is surrounded by security, the finest security in the world. In the world. Finer than would be assigned to you if you were a government official, truly. He is the best. So there's not going to be a time in any realistic scenario where he's going to have to go to the ground, where he's going to have to protect himself from armbar, or he's going to have to apply an armbar. He is doing it purely because he is interested. That's fascinating. That in of itself, the fact that Zuckerberg would choose the hardest sport, something he doesn't have to do, something that Mark Kerr, who was great at it, said he only does so his kids don't have to do it. And it's just what he wants to do with his time. I think that that's really interesting. I don't know Mark Zuckerberg. I've never crossed paths with him. But I know Tim Kendall, who is, if he's not the right hand, boy, he's close. He might be the left hand. But he is very up there, and I know that Kendall is a straight up badass. I've tangled with him myself, so. But is that something that Zuckerberg wants to do? And that's probably something you didn't know. Right, I'm name dropping, I'm sharing Tim Kendall with you, but I'm telling you, the people Zuckerberg surrounds himself, he's got some tough guys in the mix. And that's something that he must respect. And now it's something that he wants to do, but now Elon Musk has butted in. Elon Musk has now called out Mark Zuckerberg. That's really interesting to me if he's serious, right? If he's serious, come on, buddy. If he's serious, that's very, very interesting. So where this breaks down is Elon Musk takes to Twitter and he calls out Zuckerberg, and Musk and Zuckerberg got some kind of beef that goes back. Those two have never quite been able to get it right. And I can even remember Zuckerberg being asked about Elon Musk when it was rumored that Elon was going to get into the digital space of Twitter specifically. And Zuckerberg was a gentleman. He was very polite, but you could tell by his body language that he thought it was an area that Musk didn't know enough about. That for the money that it was going to cost, this was an area that he was making a bit of an error. I'm just sharing with you because I don't remember a whole bunch between these two. I just know for a really long period of time, they haven't been able to get it right. And there was even something that did have to do with space and a satellite. And I could go Google the story and know it exactly. But there was something where Zuckerberg went in for $100 million and whatever happened and his thing in space blew up and he was not happy about it. So let's set all of that aside. Whatever their beef is, right? I wouldn't be an expert apparently in telling you what it was. But now Elon has called out Zuckerberg. Okay, great. Nothing to see here because they're being silly, right? Well, yeah, until you have a promoter attached. The whole gig changes when there's a promoter involved. It doesn't matter how much Ngannou and Tyson Fury call each other out. It doesn't matter what they've said to each other if there's not a promoter involved. Nothing stopped talks faster between Tyson Fury and Jon Jones. Nothing stopped talks faster than Dana White saying, let's do it. Once a promoter is involved, you're either fighting or you're not. You're either talking about fighting or you're preparing to fight. And when Dana agreed to do Jones versus Fury, he did not agree to get that fight done. Just so you understand, Dana knew that that was a topic and that was a road to nowhere that was going to consume and take up a bunch of time. So Dana, to make it go away, said, I'll do it. You guys have all seen this, right? The rules from the playground to the octagon don't ever change. When you have two kids in class and one's meek and doesn't want to be involved, the other one is going to stay on him. When the other one responds and they both agree, yes, I will do this, well, neither one wants to actually fight, and they'll quit talking about it. They might even become friends. They'll go pick on somebody else, right? That's the way that it works. So Dana, to make it stop, says, I'll do it. But now Dana's involved with Zuckerberg and Musk. Dana went out and he's claimed that he talked to both Zuckerberg and Musk last night. And Dana says they're both serious. There is not a scenario where Dana White is going to look like an ass, just so you know. If those guys weren't serious, and Dana will know by the tone of your voice, Dana could call you and say, hey, how are you doing? How's your family? And he is so good at understanding that he will tell by the tone of your voice if you want to get in a fist fight with somebody else. He will ask you how you are and how's your family. With that question, Dana will be able to deduce if you want a cage fight. I'm not exaggerating. He's done this enough times. He knows the tells. He knows the signs. He knows if he's working with somebody that wants to do this or not. So, and I could elaborate on that. Boy, I could tell you some great stories. I was involved in one. I was involved in GSP and Khabib. And Dana was telling me, hey, he doesn't want this. I've done this enough times. I know by the tone that fight's not going to happen. Stop wasting your time on it. Just by example. Bet you'd like to hear the rest of that story, wouldn't you? But I'd like to stay on this one right now. Because if Dana didn't speak to those guys, he would have never claimed that he did. Never. That would be a tweet or a post on Facebook. Never. So he did speak to them. If they weren't serious and both agreed Dana wanted to set it, he would be outed instantly with one tweet or one post on Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg, who was the one that was challenged, this whole thing was Elon's idea, said to Dana White, hey man, is he serious? Because see, now that's Dana's job. You can't tell Zuck yes or no unless the answer is yes or no. You have to know. It's why you're the promoter. It's why you're the trusted one. It's why Dana's on the phone with him and you guys weren't and I wasn't. Dana came out and said I spoke to him, which he must have. Dana said they're interested, which they must be. Dana said they're serious. In fact, if I was to quote Dana, he said they're dead serious. We know that Zuckerberg is interested in this. We know he's not afraid. We know he's willing to compete, even if the chips are stacked against him. We know that. That's not a maybe. Because he just did it. I'm telling you, in his circle, he's got legit badasses. I'll just submit my friend Tim Kendall, who is a badass. Trust me. And then you've got Elon Musk. And we don't know what he does in his spare time. We imagine that he doesn't box, and we imagine he doesn't do jujitsu, but he might. We imagine he knows what mixed martial arts is. We don't imagine that he's ever practiced it, but he might. We imagine that he and Zuckerberg just can't get along and don't get along because they're both competing for stock shares and prices and attention within at least a similar space and then something to do with these damn rockets. But they might. And now you have Dana White saying, I could get it done. Which, by the way, the number one thing that is the most difficult to do when you have a massive fight, the number one thing, Conor and Floyd, Tyson Fury and Jon Jones, Joshua, Ruiz. I mean, you could just keep playing the game. The most difficult thing to do to get Floyd and Manny in there, the hardest thing to do is to agree on the money. Once you get it done, the number one thing that will hold it up is when guys and their managers step in and interfere with the money. It is what creates for the most competitive conflict in combat. And now you're in a situation where there is no money. Neither guy's going to get a dime. Or both guys get a dime. Either way you want to look at it. But there would be no negotiation. That's not what they're doing this for. Dana will come in some kind of a position of saying, hey, look, I'm not paying these guys, but there's no reason to pay them. There's nothing that I could pay them that would generate. There's just no reason to do that. It could cost my company money and it won't make a difference in their life. That we're not going to do that. However, I am going to charge you guys. In fact, I'm going to charge you, the audience, a premium for it just because it's such a wild and once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Now, I got the right to take something, but I'm also going to then give it back and go to a charity. I mean, right, like everything will get worked out. The most complicated thing that you will have in this is those numbers in that equation, but I don't know that it should be. I don't know that we, the audience, have a problem paying a premium, particularly if we find out it's going to charity, and I don't think the two billionaires are going to have any kind of a problem of going out and doing a fist fight for free when they want to be in that position anyway, when this is a dream, when the opponent is somebody that they don't like, and everybody can relate to that. Every one of you, one reason the fighting works, you all can relate. There's somebody in the office or on the job site who, if you could get away with it, you would fight. This happens to be the industry where you can. People are dismissing this. I don't know. I believe in Zuckerberg fully. I believe in Zuckerberg fully because he went and did it. He went and put his neck literally on the line. And when he didn't get the outcome he wanted, he went and surrounded himself with even better coaches and training partners. That's what we were told. And I believe it. And I've watched people tell Elon Musk, you won't do this. Your mouth is too big. You can't start an electric car company. You can't build a gigafactory. You can't move a company from California to Texas. You can't get to Mars. You can't underspend and outdo NASA. I watched them do it. You won't pay 4 times for a social media platform that you know very little about. You will not pay 4 times what it's worth. I've watched people do this to Elon. And every single time that he said he would do something, he did it. And in the grand scheme of things that Elon Musk has claimed that he's going to do, and then you have to look back and see if he really did it. In the grand scheme of things, showing up on a Saturday night and standing opposite Mark Zuckerberg in the Octagon really isn't the most complicated of them all.